Welcome to the Northwest Provincial Government Podcast. We inspire and encourage our communities through personally inspiring stories of our leaders in government and game changers in our communities. Enjoy this episode.
Ke romela madume go baagi ba province ya Northwest mme bogolosegolo ke romela madume go wena moagi wa sedika sa Ngaka Modiri Molema. Gompieno, the Northwest Provincial Government Podcast e le tlisetsa puisano le mmera mogolo wa sedika sa Ngaka Modiri Molema e leng Rre Khumalo Molefe. Major, dumela.
Dumela kgaitsadi ake.
Le kae?
Re a tsoga molato ga o gona le ga o le teng re tla nna re gao.
Wa mogetse mo NWPG podcast.
Ke leboga ebile ke belaela gore ke majoro wa ntlha mo go bo majoro go tsena mo podcasting ya rona ya province ya Bokone Bophirima ra itumela.
O tota le wa ntlha major. A re simolole pele ka go thadisetsa bareetsi gore wena o goletse kae le gore kgodiso ga go ne ntse yang.
Ke leboga kgaitsadi aka. Sa ntlha nna ke mokgatla. Ke Motswana ke mokgatla.
Khabo
Ke sedibelo. Ke sedibelo se irileng go sha metsi a falla. Ke motho wa gakgafela. Ke modibana motente mo le ka ntšhana ga o sena ntšhana o tla le ka kae. Rona re magadimana ntweng ga re ja ga re gadime. Jaanong ke belegetse mo tulong ya bakgatla e bidiwang Morule. Mme ga ke tsenela ke belegetswe tota mo tulong e lona le bitsang Pilanesberg Game Reserve. Jaanong nna ke belegetse ka mo gare ga Pilanesberg Game Reserve. Ke ko bo koko le bontatemogolo ba robetseng teng re ne ra fudusiwa ko ka dingwaga tsa bo 1982 ke puso ya tlhaolele ya Bophutatswana ba re latlhelwa kwa ntle. Mme fela motse wa rona o bidiwang Madutle ke karolo ya metse ya bakgatla. Jaanong ke godile jalo ke goletse mo lelapeng la bana ba le supa basimane re batlhano nna ke wa bone makgarijana kwa borataro lwa bo supa. Jaanong re godisitswe ke mosadi o ke mmitsang gore ka leina la Setswana ke the greatest father of all times ka lebaka la gore ga ntse re gola ka mabaka a botshelo re o ile a moafala. Jaanong mmeo a re godisa jalo ka tshokolo ke goletse mo tshokolong thata fela. O na re godisa ka ditshokolo ne re ga gona le dikgaisano tsa mmino ko dikolong a ba rekisa tsa dipitsa tse dintsho tsa di-tripod a go rekisa pako go sa lekane. Una dirile thata go Gauteng mo di-kitcheneng yaanong o na itse gore diaparo tse ne re di bitsa di-outlier tse di tsewa kae tse di bitswang moalo gompieno a leka go di rekisa ga pala. Kwa bokhutlong mosadi o na tsa ntlo ya gagwe a e fetola ntlo ya go rekisa ntshe ke gore tavern. Yaanong na simolola kgwebo ya tavern mme ya atlega tota ka gore gompieno ke fa re batho ka jeno ke goletse mo taverneng. Mme ke goletse mo taverneng le bonkgonne ha ke nwe bojang. Ha ke se ke bonwe fela ga ke na bothata le batho ba ba bonwang. Ke tsene sekolo kwa Madutle Primary re tsenetse mo ditenteng tsa masole ga re fetsa go fudusiwa ke masole fo ka dikgoka ntle le mo ka tsena kwa Tidimane Middle School kwa Sandfontein ka go tsweletsa ka tsena kwa Moruleng Middle School. Mme high school ya me ke dirile kwa JM Ntsime High School kwa Mogwasi. Go tlogeng fo ka lebaka la tshokolo e ke neng ke bua ka yona ka tlhoka lesego la gore ke go tsenela dithuto kgolwane. Mme ka lesego la gore tikologo ya rona ya bakgatla ena le di-mine e rile ga ke tswa mo sekolong ka be ke ya go dira kwa mining. Ke simolotse ke dira kwa mining ya ka plant attendant. Ha motho a ntse a tla ka bona tlhatlhoso mo tirong ka go nna instructor ka nna senior instructor gona ko mining ke ne ke bua fanakalo le yaanong ke santse ke itse fanakalo yaanong la bofelo ke ga ba ntlhatlhosa gape ke nna corporate social investment officer gona ko mining mme ka lebaka la gore ke ne ke itse tshotlego e re goletse mo go yona ke ne ke le motho o ke neng ke labalabela thuto ke rata thuto yaanong dithuto tsa me tsotlhe ke through distant learning ke simolotse ke itika ka Damelin ka dira public relations ka bona e dumela ka dira marketing management ka bona e dumela ke ne ke ntse ke le motho o ratang gore ka gore ke dira ko mining ke be ke dira advanced diploma in adult basic education and training ka gore ga ke ne ke wetsa mo tirong ke ne ke ruta bagolo ko gona ko mining mme go tloga fo ko UNISA ke ne ka dira gape human resources management ka be ke fuduga yaanong ke fudugela kwa Wits University ke gona ko ke boneng honors ya me teng mme nka tlhalosa gore ke ne ka dira dithuto tsa molao ke di puagantse mo tseleng mme ke dirile dithuto tse dingwe gape ke ntse ke le ka go ikoketsa mo botshelong ke botshelo bo ke botsitseng ga ile go dira yaka ke kaile ke dirile kwa mining go tswa kwa mining ka 2004 ke ne ka tswa kwa mining go ne go se monate ke tla tlhalosa gore mme ka tla mo lefapheng la temothuo mo Bokone Bophirima mo ke dira teng as a senior human resources development officer ka tswa ko ke le teng go se monate gape ke lelekiwa ke ka nako ya ga mme Edna Molewa le borre Maisela ka lelekiwa ke tla tlhalosa goreng yaanong go tswa foo ka go dira kwa masepaleng wa Mahikeng jaaka manager performance management ka tlhatlhosiwa ka nna tlhogo mo kantorong ya ga municipal manager ka tloga ko ka go dira kwa Northwest Provincial Legislature jaaka senior manager or chief director corporate support services le teng ko ka belesediwa ke kana kwa gare Mahumapelo ka belesediwa ko ka boela kwa Mahikeng ka go nna tlhogo mo kantorong ya ga mayor mme go tsweng kwa Mahikeng yaanong ka go dira le Rema Doda Sambata ya ka chief of staff yaanong ke tswa ko jaaka chief of staff ke tla go nna mayor mme se nka se tlhalosang ke gore botshelo ba ka ba sepolotiki bo sale bo simolotse bogologolo mo mekgatlhong ya bašwa youth league mme tota nna dipolotiki ke di rutilwe ke National Union of Mine Workers ka gore ba sale ba tloga ba na le selo seo ba neng ba se bitsa ba re ke Elijah Bagai Institute ke gore di-shop steward ne re apeiwa ko re rutiwa polotiki le gore badiri ba emela jang go tloga ko National Union of Mine Workers e rile ga ke tsena mo Bokone Bophirima mo pusong ka be ke nna branch secretary ya Nehau nkgatelenyana fa le be ba re ke nne regional secretary ke sona so se se mpolaiseng ka puso ya ga Edna Molewa ka gore I was radical ka nako eo ka be ke lelekiwa ka lona lebaka le la go emela badiri ka tsena gape mo COSATU ka nna mokwaledi wa COSATU mme ka yona nako e gape ke ne ke le mokwaledi wa ANC mo Mahikeng wa sub-region ka tloga ka nna modulasetulo wa ANC mo Ngaka Modiri Molema ke ntse modulasetulo wa SANCO ka nna mokwaledi wa SANCO jaanong ke di tsamaile tsotlhe go fitlhelela fa ke tsela e ke tsamaileng go fitlhelela fa ya botshelo
yaanong Majoro o bua ka wena gore you were radical through your working career but it should have started somewhere ke batla go itse gore ha Khumalo a na gola go ne go nna le those traces tsa go bontsha gore yo mosimane o ka re tla sokodisa mosimane o ka re tla re mo a tsamaya mo teng a ba tsamaya ebile a defy or even just defying the system and pushing the status quo gore ba feletse a le mo teng it should have begun somewhere so take me back how gola gore wena o no ntse ya
I must be honest I was influenced by my mother who was a comrade but who was an activist who occupied every position in society. I remember at some point she was a chairperson of the school committee, which is called the school governing body today. And I remember that one day, because of this poverty that I keep on referring to, ne go duelwa mo go ene.
Okay.
Ne le na tshwarang tšhelete gore ha batsadi ba duela ne ba go duela mo go ene. Yaanong o na tlwaetse go ikadima a reka di-case gore tabene kgone tswela pele re gole. Yaanong tsatsi le lengwe ba ikadima madi a rre mongwe o na agile le rona kwa gae kwa o na bidiwa kgosi mo go Lesilo Rula a bidiwa Re George Moleleke. Now Re George Moleleke tsatsi le lengwe batla madi a gagwe re ntse re morare mme o rile gayo mme a le teng mo ntlong tsatsi le lengwe ba ituela ka nna. Yaanong selo se be se simolola se re bula matlho mme tota motho o tshamekileng karolo e tona mo dipolotiking who was a comrade in my life is my mother.
Yes.
I have a sense that I am my walking mother today. If there's anybody who I think has influenced who I am, how I walk, how I speak, how I carry myself, I talk to my mother every day. I see my mother in me all the time. I can't mention anybody else other than my mother who has influenced me and who continues to influence me. And by the way, she's late. She died in 2014. And I remember that on the day that she died, that morning she called me. And she told me that she needed some airtime. And I said, I'm going to Lichtenberg. I'm rushing to a meeting. I'll buy you airtime. In the process, she told me that she is not well. My brother, the firstborn, is a nurse. But after an hour or so, I got a call from him to say my mother is not well. They've rushed her to the clinic. The rest is history. And she passed on the same day that she called me looking for airtime and telling me that she's not well. So I am my mother.
You are your mother.
Yes.
Now, Maya, you spoke about 2 points that I want us to actually explore because they are quite relevant right now to what is happening around the country. The first thing, you say you were raised in a family, in a operator tavern. Now, looking at the township economy, we know as Black people, by they're unemployed. Spaza shops and taverns are actually a means for people to make an income. Now, last week, government declared a state of emergency with regards to the food poisoning incidents that are happening across the country. And I know there's a call out by the president for spaza shops to actually be registered. How is the municipality assisting in driving that process here?
No, thank you very, very much. We are a product of that local economy. But as government, as a people, as South Africans, we must first plead guilty that we are reactive as a country, whether it's with our porous borders, whether it's with regard to this thing that you call zamazamas, whether it's with spaza shops. It didn't start this big. It evolved over time. We let them be. So I think we're reacting. We should have acted and protected South Africans. Our law is very clear. As a foreigner, for you to do business here, you must invest a minimum of 5 million. Your business must be registered. You must pay tax. You must be documented. Those basics are legalized long time ago. We've known about them. We've dropped the ball. We must apologize profusely and unconditionally to South Africans. Now, as a municipality, we have taken heed of the cross-cutting bylaws that were initiated nationally. We're coordinating all our local municipalities to do public participation on those bylaws so that eventually they are adopted. We have given ourselves until Friday to adopt those bylaws. Our council will also sit by Friday to adopt those bylaws so that we can support locals, but we can implement them. In the end, there must be law and order in our country. And I think we have been too complacent. We confused democracy with lawlessness. Just here, next door, 24 kilometers from here into Botswana, you will not go there and do the nonsense that our brothers and sisters who are foreigners do here in our country. They break the law, they don't have documents, some of them sell drugs, some of them commit crime, some do that with impunity. They are able to march and tell us that we must convert Sunnyside into Little Lagos. That can't be sustained. This is not sense, it's nonsense. And until we act in the best interest of our nation by enforcing law and order, we're not anti-foreigners. No, we're not anti-African brothers and anybody else who comes out of it. But this is a sovereign country. There must be law and order.
Now let's look let's go back into your career where you're working in the mines, and I loved when you said you can speak the language. Now let's speak to the people in Stilfontein and the people that some of them are still down there in the mines. You know, sometimes when you speak to a person in a language that they can understand, it actually touches their heart and it takes the message home. Say it in Fanakalo. Tell them to take the stuff the illegal mine.
No, thank you very much. Not only can I still speak Fanakalo, I'm fluent in Portuguese.
Okay.
But I learned it because I was teaching Mozambicans who Portuguese is their second language. Nyanis mina jopile lo mai, futu lo Fanakalo mina yazi ena, mina jopile la pa school mine, mina yazi lo mgot, lo into lo mina kangelile la pa kalo Stilfontein, lo into lo mina izwa inabiziwa lo zamazama. Mara la pa ka mina haiko na ena lo zamazama. Lo into lo ena lo mine lo ena rana. Lo into lo tinafuna kangela ena kahle. Ena kona makulu muntu lo ena rana lo mine lo haiko na ena lo zamazama ena lo kalo 10-50 people mariskatu ena khuluma kalo 1000 muntu lo ena kona lapha kalo mgodi 1500 2000 muntu haiko na ena lo zamazama lapha kamina kalo scope kamina kalo experience lo mena kona na ena lapha kalo mine lo into lo haiko na ena zamazama ena lo illegal mining operation. So noko tina bopa lo muntu lo enazamela lo muzika yena. Lo machala enazbuya lapa kayena mari bitir tinafuna lo makulu muntu lo rana lo maini lo. Skati tinainza so minachela wena tina solve lo problem. Mari lo kubopa lo muntu lo kona lapa mukoti nyani sena pulile lo mteto mari lo makulu muntu kona futi mhlope munye skate na mnyama mari lo kurana lo mine lo enaenza lo shift kalo 1000 1.5 lapa kamina ena full shift kalo mine enakulu makuti lo muntu lo kona lo payroll system kanjane lo muntu lo pataliwa lo 1500 nenzeka skati lo muntu le malile lapa kalo mgoti. So ena makulu into enafuna tinaiko na jopisa lo ntlizio enafuna tina kabanga tina biza lo muntu lo jopile lapa kalo mine lo understanda lo into lo enzeka ifuna lo muntu lo traisha bamba lo machance aiko nafuna lo theory lo into lo enafuna lo experience enafuna lo muntu lo enabuka skatu enakuluma kalo minister Mantash jopile lapa kalo mine mina ngenile lapa tola inapuma mari yazi kalo mine lo into lo yazi lo into lo kuluma. So nyanisi lo muntu lo pulile lo mteto bitri tina bopa mari lo kubopa lo muntu haiko na lo permanent solution. Tinafuna tinaenza lo plani kanjani tina jopisa lo mamaini lo kati job bani ekile lo maini so ndaba lo mteto clear skati lo maini jopile skati tinafaka lo mteto valiwa hamba kalondlela lo mteto bekile. So lapa kamina kona maningi makulu muntu kona maningi makulu muntu lapa kalo operation lo kona lapa kalo mkoti okay bitir tinasiza yena enabuya aphuza lo manzi tinabopha yena futhi lapha kamina mina izolo muntu enakhuluma lo muntu lo enahluleka lokuphuma ayikhona mina ayikona cabanga so ena lo plani kalokufumana lo manzi na lo scarf skati enatholile lo scarf enasiqhubeka enajopa mari thinahlonipha lo into lo enakhulumiwa kalo court lo kalokuthi siza lo muntu nika ena lo scarf nika ena lo medication thinahlonipha lo mthetho mari lo kalokuthi no lo muntu lo enahluleka lokuphuma mina cabanga thina ikona yenza lo investigation kahle azikho lo 1000 2000 muntu lo enazingena lapha kalo mgodi kalo rope azikho thina ikona bukile lapha kalo Stilfontein lapha kalo experience kamina mina cabanga enakhona lo munye shaft lo muntu lo enajopisa ene lo bantu lo enayazi enayikona tshela thina lo nyani sikanjani lo 2000 muntu enangenile lapha kalo mgodi azikho lento lo kaloku ngena kalo rope 2000 muntu enangena lapha mgodi kalo rope mina ikona yazi mari better tinajopisa lo muntu lo enajopile lapha kalo mgodi.
Yes. Now, Executive Mayor, let's move to present day, where your political party has deployed you to become the mayor of Ngaka Modiri Molema, and also you're the chairperson of SALGA. What do these responsibilities mean to you?
It's very huge, very huge. I don't take it light. I never actually planned to be a mayor. I've always wanted to be something special and represent my family. You know, I never thought one day I would be a mayor. But that I'm a mayor, look, I spent a lot of my lifetime working as a senior official of government. And I can tell you, it's nice there. If you want to live a nice life, stay in the provincial government, stay in the national government. Here, it is a cold face. I never thought that one day people will come here, protest, and pour me with sewer. But I've been poured with sewer. I was working nicely for government department. I was putting on ties. You seldom see me on a tie because for you to be a mayor, you can't sit in a cozy office like this. You must go to the ground. If you rely on these documents, they say one thing. But when you compare them to what is on the ground, it's exactly the opposite. So if you are in the position of being a mayor and you don't go to the ground, you will not make it. I must say with humility that I was also not expecting to be a provincial chairperson of SALGA. When I went to that conference, I went as a mayor and I gave a welcoming address that all other councillors would unanimously resolve that I must be the provincial chair. I can only ask God what happened and I take it. It's his decision. And therefore, when I pray, I ask him for leadership, for humility, for wisdom, and for guidance. But it is a huge responsibility to lead 22 municipalities. What we have inherited, this cohort of councillors, by the time we came in 2021, and the president addressed us in 2022 in the SALGA National Conference, and the president confirmed that municipalities, local government was spiraling down to collapse. And that is what we have inherited. The Auditor General's report confirmed that many of our municipalities were already in a state of collapse. And therefore, many of us inherited a collapsing system. And that is why I get very angry, very angry. I take it personal. When I hear our colleagues in the provincial space and national space standing on the rooftop, lambasting, reprimanding, shouting at local government, it hurts me because they don't know what we go through every day. They haven't seen or experienced what we experience here every day. Nobody matches to the MEC. Nobody matches to the minister. Here we deal with matches every day of our life. But we must also admit, over time, what we deployed or employed, the quality that we employed in the arena of senior management and all that. There was a time where you could hire people in positions without the necessary qualifications and experience, and that area was abused. So they say in English, garbage in, garbage out. What you put in is what you sow. And therefore, what we are experiencing in local government today is what we invested over time in local government. So it's a sad story, but it requires a certain quality of leadership. And that is why my experience in local government tells me, you can't continue. We have to change course 30 years down the line. We have to change course. And I know many of my friends, comrades, and would not take this thing lightly. Here in the coalface, we oversee chartered accountants. We oversee lawyers. We oversee engineers. But what is required for you to be a mayor-in-law? What is required from you to be a councillor-in-law? Nothing. You get elected by a community meeting. How did you convene that community meeting? Whether you coerced or influenced through intimidation, we don't know. But you are a product of that process only. Nothing in the constitution says you must have this basic requirements. And on the basis of populism, you become a councillor. And technically, if not automatically, you become a member of the mayoral committee. And to a larger extent, you become a mayor or a speaker. But what is required from you? No populism. You must be popular in the community. Now, reality is that half the time you produce people who sometimes don't even have metric. But what is their assignment? Their assignment is that they are the employer. They are called council. They take decisions over these chartered accountants and lawyers and engineers and all that. I mean, we're not saying mayors and councillors must have masters and PhDs. They must be engineers. But at least let's meet that system of administration halfway so that there can be synergy towards accelerated service delivery. So we're working together. We preside over administration, but we're not on the same page. 30 years down the line, I argue that we must pause, reflect, and say, what are these remedies that we can put in the system? We can even say, okay, 70% of councillors must have a postgraduate something, so that we leave a room for those who are still upgrading to upgrade themselves. But to continue on the trajectory that we are, we will get the results that we are getting.
Okay. And then Mayor, tell me, it seems like you're navigating quite a challenging environment in local government. How do you navigate challenges that you meet throughout your different roles and caps that you wear?
What are the challenges? Maybe we must start there. You know that by argument, if you take the budget of Ekurhuleni as a metro or Joburg, it's bigger than that of Northwest as a province. It's a reality. What is the problem there? It's our funding model. Let me tell you, local government is underfunded. Local government is over-regulated. Until we address these structural problems, we will look, for an example, in law now, they say the district is responsible for disaster management. So when there is a disaster in Dielpan and everywhere, they say it's a district. But do you know that it's an unfunded mandate?
It is.
There is no budget coming from anywhere. My people are ravaged by fire in the farms and in the villages. I don't have fire stations, but there's no funding for that particular responsibility. Now, it's a serious challenge. But what do? We can't cry. We have not been invited here to cry. You wake up every day, you engage national departments, you engage provincial departments. Say, for instance, here in Ngaka Modiri Molema. And I must tell you, I've argued, having inherited this municipality, I've argued that this municipality does not qualify to be a public entity. It's something in between a public entity and a private entity, because the influence of private business people in this municipality at times it's much bigger and stronger than the influence of public office bearers.
Okay.
And that is a problem. And you find that such business people have in many instances even captured some of the officials. So we've had to put systems in place.
Okay.
When we came here, we closed our eyes and said, what do? We said, we're not going to do what was done over the years, where you bring your own person, I bring my own person because I'm a speaker, you are a mayor, bring your Kamina, Kawina, Nika, Nika, and all that. That is what collapsed local government. We closed our eyes and said, let's look for sheer competence.
Okay.
And I can tell you with my eyes closed, we have tried our best. You can't have it 100%. But I can tell you, we have tried our best. If you take, for an example, our CFO here, I can compete with any CFO, not only in the province, nationally I can compete. Whether it's a senior manager, community services, senior manager, community, planning, IDP and all that, I can compete. There are men and women here who are committed to work. There are a few who are hiding behind their fingers, who are playing politics, who are influencing instability and division and all that. They are few. But they are men and women who understand that our people need water. So how do you do it? You can't be an island. The fact that you are a mayor does not mean this institution belongs to you. You are elected with 48 other people you lead with. I've got a mayoral committee. It's me who has appointed the mayoral committee, but I report to council. But I engage them. They are in charge of departments. They report to me. There are committees established by council, section 80s, that also help the mayor. Eventually, the mayor reports to council, and council is the final arbiter. So if you are a mayor, it doesn't start and end with you. You will not succeed. There is a speaker who is in charge of council processes, the legislative part. There's a whip. We meet from time to time. Even this morning, we had a meeting. We process issues. We engage one another. The left must know what the right is doing. Otherwise, you will not succeed in a municipality. This is the only sphere, by the way, where legislature and executive are in one space. In the provincial government, you have the executive one side running its affairs, but you have the legislature far away doing the same at national. But here, there's a convolution, and if you don't manage these sensitive terrain, you may find that you spend most of the time on turf wars. Turf war between the mayor and the speaker and the whip and others. So it is involving. You must eat well, you must drink well, you must exercise, you must surround yourself with a lot of positive people, you must drink and eat positive energy. Anything other than that, you will collapse.
But I think the mayor forgot to say you must also ride your bike. I know that you're a biker. Tell us about that.
Of course, and by the way, today is our anniversary. Me and my wife.
Okay.
We
Happy
met in the
anniversary.
gym.
All right.
We met in the gym, me and my wife, 25 years ago.
Okay.
I haven't stopped going to the gym ever since. Even if it means just walking I like walking long distance. I go to the gym at least 3 times a week, but I go 5. I'm from the gym this morning. It's the only petrol that carries me. Now, I can tell you, no politician will survive this coal phase unless they lead a healthy lifestyle, unless they eat well, drink well, exercise. Other than that, we see politicians dying at a very early age because of complications, because you get driven, you think it's comfort. When I was growing, I thought getting driven is comfort. You will have kidney problems. You will have, it's a glorified, thankless job. If you don't take care of yourself, you will not last a distance. We don't rest. We're forever in meetings. We are forever on the road, back-to-back meetings. If you don't take care of your life and you are selfish and you have self-love, you will not go a distance.
Yana ke batla go itse gore ga mme ya ra se mo tirong a se ko dikopanong are just off duty in some of the things that you do. And please, Mayor, I see you're not actually responding to the part of your life of being a biker. Can you please also include that in your answer?
No, thank you very much. I do bike when I get a chance. What do I do if I'm not into this? Look, these days it's worse, man. We don't get time. We don't have life. I don't have life. Really, I don't know of a politician who has life, because our circle is very dangerous. Look, let's take it organizationally. If it's not a regional conference taking place and we're preparing very hard for it, after the regional conference, you are preparing for the provincial conference, right? After the provincial conference, you are preparing for the national conference. After national conference, you are preparing for local elections. After local elections, it's provincial and national elections. In between, it's by-elections. In between, you must be at the funeral, because if you don't go to a funeral or a wedding, you are pompous and aloof. So, and then from there, it's government work. It's a council meeting, but the premier invites you in the provincial coordinating council, and if you don't attend, also it's a problem. And then you've got the district command council, but you must also attend Minmax. But you must also balance with the family. It's a very delicate terrain. And then you get home, and they tell you, in this yard, there's no mayor. It's a husband. It's a father. So it's a balancing act. It's a serious balancing act. But like I say, I do cycle. I like my boxing gloves at training. I love my gym. I can't trade it for anything. It's the petrol that sustains me. The day I leave the gym, there's going to be big problems. Plus, we are big-bodied. So the day I stop gymming, I foresee crime.
But then any books Mayara wa bala ke dibuka dife tse o kileng wa di bala tse ile gore they are top of mind, how di lebale, and why those titles?
I read across the board. I read the Bible. Let me tell you, I read a lot of political books written by Steve Biko. I read Maxwell. I read 21 Laws of Power. I read across the spectrum. But I like the Bible. And these days I've developed new tendencies now. I read across religion. Okay. So I read a lot about the Baha'i faith and their religion, which is different from Christianity and Islam. And then I read about the Islam religion or the Muslim religion. I read the Al-Quran a lot these days. You get to learn. You get to learn. And then I read the Bible. I may not be the biggest believer, but I read for learning. When you read the Bible, it gives you examples of leadership that you can learn from without necessarily believing in Jesus. If you've got a problem in believing in Jesus and all that, it's okay. But you can read the Bible to learn various aspects of life. I mean, I'm looking at Moses, who liberated the Egyptians, the Israelites from Egypt. And I say, but this fellow was a mere headman who was heading his father-in-law's cattle. And God identified him and created a leader out of a headman. And by the way, when Moses was tasked and assigned by God to go and liberate his people, this is a comrade created by God. You go. That's activism, by the way. It started in the Bible. Go liberate my people. Moses was 80 years old.
Yes.
When he liberated God's people and he led them. And in the process, on the way, they created factions. The very factions that we are having a problem, they do not start with us. They started back then with original liberators, Moses and them. So Moses goes to the mountain. When he comes back, they've created their own little God. And they tell him, hey, Mona, go and tell your God. Pharaoh was ill-treating us. But they were drinking and eating. So, and how did Moses die? He took it personal. He broke God's laws. And God invited him back where they used to meet. And who knows how Moses died and where he was buried? Nobody knows. It's because God made an appointment with him. The point I am saying, what do you learn out of this story without necessarily believing? God creates leaders, blesses them with wisdom, humility, and standing in society. But these leaders must remember that they are not their own leaders. They lead the people for God. And the day they betray God and they betray the mission of leadership, God steps in. And that's why many of us, today you are a mayor, tomorrow you are totally nothing. And it's like you have never been given an opportunity. These are mistakes of failing to learn from the Bible. So that's my philosophy. Those are the books that I read. I really read across the board. I love Martin Luther King Jr. In fact, I never give a speech. I hardly ever give a speech, and I don't steal a quote from Martin Luther the King Jr. I read a lot about socialism, Marx, Lenin. I read a lot when I find time, but I read a lot of legislation because you can't lead You've got to read. You've got to be. Plus, you are leading municipalities. Remember, over and above being the chair of SALGA, I am also a member of the national executive of SALGA. So you've got to represent and carry the province so that when you speak, you are an ambassador of the province there.
Now, Executive Mayor, poverty and unemployment are some of the challenges that we face as a country. Now, what role do you think municipalities can play in this space just to alleviate poverty and unemployment?
One, we came with this thing called IDP. I don't think we're taking it serious. If we were taking the IDP serious, we would not even have had a need to come up with district development model. IDP means integrated development planning. Let's plan together as spheres of government and execute together. Let me give you an example. As municipalities, we have a responsibility over local economic development. We are not in homelands, but you see these groups of our local people disrupting briefings, getting to departments, demanding this and that. And you think these fellows are crazy. They are not. They are fighting for the economy. Why? Because those of us who have been given responsibilities to represent them have become too comfortable and too complacent. It is not normal that we don't give a man on the street local opportunities. Surely, if a municipality like Ngaka, my budget is 1.6 billion, 40% of that, if not 45%, goes into water and sanitation in contractors, consultants, and all that. The question I must answer, which is my task, is how much of that benefits local people? Until we are selfish in defending the interest of our people, they will keep on doing what they are doing, fighting for their economic rights, and we will think they are crazy. Because those of us who are supposed to represent them are selling out, are too comfortable, have forgotten about them. But a right-thinking municipality would say there must be women and youth in water and sanitation. But if you check here, there are no women and youth, because those in supply chain committees are men, and therefore they are resistant. Now, it is our responsibility as representative of the people, because a councillor means a representative of the people, to fight, to push our administration to remember that we did not visit here. We were elected by the people on the ground. So municipalities have a responsibility to protect the local economic development, starting with spaza shops. We dropped the ball there. How is it possible that in a country like South Africa, 80 to 85%, if not 90 or 95% of the spaza shops are foreign owned? It is an embarrassment, not only on us as a country, but on the local sphere of government, because those issues must be addressed. But let me take you home. Our second home here in Botswana. I don't know when last did you go to Gaborone. Remember, there's no difference between Mahikeng and Gaborone. In fact, Mahikeng used to be the capital city of Botswana.
Yes.
So we share the same everything, topography and all that. I went to Botswana 10 years ago. I came back 10 years later. Go to Gaborone. Gaborone was like Mahikeng. Today, Gaborone is a city. Botswana, they are no longer flocking into Mahikeng like they used to, because they've created their own local economy. And what happened? Government invested in infrastructure. Mahikeng can transform into something special if we who are in government can take a conscious decision to open new roads, to invest in infrastructure. We're struggling just to get a license of an airport. We've been struggling. Dig Munsiwa Airport, it has taken us more than 10 years now. A license that can create and boost an economy, create a cargo there, take things to Botswana, Namibia, and all that. It has taken us 10 years. Are we serious? Is there political will in such matters? No, let's begin. At the rate at which we are going, I may be wrong, at the rate at which we are going, 30 years down the line, there's no excuse. We have experience in governance. We should be able to change things. We should be able to invest. For me, the solution will be that it must start with us. When we invite the private sector, let's give them confidence that we're also committed, that we're not corrupt, we are upright, we have the political will, we are representing the people, we understand what it means to be a nation builder, to be an ambassador of the people. Once we sent that message, we have fallen victim of this notion of corruption, ineptitude, and all that. My attitude is that let's carry ourselves in an upright, ethical manner, but let's invest in the local economy ourselves first as government. Government has got money. I mean, if you look at the projects that government do, forget about the private sector. Projects that government do, some remain incomplete and all that, some are abandoned. If we can change attitude, especially those who are in administration, we will go places. Mahikeng can be beaten by Gaborone, because Mahikeng and Gaborone are the same.
But then Mayor, you speak about challenges and what needs to be done. And I will say that Mayor does sit in platforms and in meetings where I believe such conversations take place. Is there an appetite to change the tide?
I've interacted with Premier Kagiso Mokhosi. And as a human being, when he became a premier, I looked at him and I said, hey, can this fellow take us somewhere? And they say, don't judge a book by its cover. And the closer I work with Premier Mokhosi, the more I realize if we give this man support, not all of us can be a premier. He is a premier now. If we can give him support, I have listened to him talk intimately about where he wants to take us, and I speak without doubt. There is political will in the premier, but also there is leadership. What he needs is our total, complete, unequivocal support. If we give him support, we're going places. But number two, is this thing in chapter 3 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, cooperative governance. You see, the Constitution says all spheres of government are autonomous, they are not hierarchical, they are interconnected, interdependent, and interrelated. They must treat one another with respect and care and avoid taking one another to court. If as spheres of government we can work together, driven by a spirit of cooperative governance, driven by the district development model, we'll turn it around. We will turn it around.
Now, Mayor, the 7th administration has lived up to expectation by ensuring that there is a continuation of Thunsa Lerole Reloaded, which is an service delivery accelerated program. Now, I want to find out, how do you think our people can actually embrace it to make sure that they give it the necessary support?
Thank you very much. We ourselves as Salga are coming from a provincial members assembly at Sun City last week. We have adopted officially Thunsa Lerole as our program.
Okay.
Because once we are seen driving it, and it's not a once-off thing. You see, the premier can come once a month in Ngaka and go to the next district. There is an impact then. But what happens when the premier leaves if the municipality does not continue? So we've taken a resolve that we will do a Beke 1. Each municipality must take leadership. Once people see, but we are cleaning, but we're patching potholes, we're repairing street lights, we're cutting grass, people will also change their attitude. People will adopt this program and embrace it. You don't have to always throw the law at the people. I mean, but everywhere. Borremo tropo mo ba ema gongwe le gongwe tropo di ankga gore ga o se tlo itse gore gate go diragala. But we must take our people along and teach our people that government can be everywhere, that government does not exist. What exists is the people, and that is why we call it a government for the people, by the people. Now, it's a democratic government where every citizen must take responsibility. The duty of government is not to police people. The duty of government is to create a conducive environment so that people can express themselves, people can live together harmoniously. So this dependency on government is not sustainable. We've got to change course. South Africans must begin to take responsibility and stop this thing of saying, what can government do for me, and say, what can I do for my government? And I think if we do Thunsa Lerole all the time and people see political will, people see that we are committed, the people will embrace Thunsa Lerole. They've already started anyway. I mean, a government that gives people plant seeds, bulls, tractors, that government that accounts to people. You don't see it anywhere. You can go to America. You can go anywhere. Show me a government that is so entrenched in public participation, a government that accounts to its people like the South African government, like the Northwest government through Tunsalero. I'm happy Northwest is turning the corner. The center is holding. Other provinces are beginning to respect us. We're reclaiming our space, and that is exciting. And once people see, yesterday when you were saying Northwest, we were a laughing stock, a skunk of that which we were supposed to be. But that picture has changed from Maloi to Mokosi. If we sustain that thing, there's no turning back.
Now, let's talk about turning that tide. What do you think can be done to resolve the service delivery challenges and also the governance in local municipalities? I'm talking about Tswaing, Ratlo, Ramotshirimilo, even Mahikeng here, local municipality. What can be done to address those?
One, we must insist on the employment of competent, experienced, qualified officials. That's number one. But we now have councillors. We can't wish them away. We must continue to workshop them, and that's what we are doing at SALGA. Train them on leadership, train them on finances, train them on governance. There is no excuse. But we must also address realities. Local municipalities are burdened by historical debts. You talk about Mahikeng. Mahikeng is still paying a Buputatswana water debt. What do you call this thing? Butsilo water. Butsilo is a Buputatswana entity. But after Butsilo came Sidibay, right? And then now Makhalis. Municipalities are hamstrung. So you get your equitable share. Before you move forward, you must settle the historical debt. It's not sustainable. Historical apartheid debt. We need to liberate local government from historical debts. We need to review the funding model. But for me, we must deal with the issue of powers and function. For an example, you've got one municipality, Ngaka Modiri Molema, it's a water service authority. When you go to Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, that district is not a water service authority. When you go to Bujanala, it's not a water service authority. But when you go to Dr. Ruth Mompati, it's a water service authority. So if you empower and capacitate, who do you capacitate? So we've got to deal with questions of powers and function. But I also believe that we must prioritize local economic development. And I get a sense that it's taking the back seat. But we must deal with realities. We are a district. You are a district. You have inherited a municipality like Ditsobotla, which is spiraling down. Ditsobotla can't pay salaries. Who must do that? As a district, we have paid Ditsobotla salaries no less than 3 times. Do we have the capacity to do that? No, we don't. Who has the capacity to do that? It's the province and it's national. So we must balance those. If you go to Tswaing, they also inherited an ailing municipality. You know that in Tswaing, even if you've worked for 30 years, when you go home, you go empty-handed. Their pension scheme has collapsed. These are realities of the things and difficulties we have inherited. And I argue, my sister, that the provincial and national spheres must pause and not address local government and not shout or reprimand or scream at local government. I get a sense that 30 years down the line, we must begin to listen to local government, understand what local government is going through. Only when we do that, we will realize. For an example, if we municipalities owe water boards, national and provincial spheres withhold our equitable share. Equitable share is money we get from the national government, fiscus, as our share. They withhold it and say, you owe ESCOM or you owe water boards. But let me tell you, provincial, national sphere, and other private entities or local government, billions. But you hardly ever see a situation where we say, you government department, provincial, national, we withhold your budget because you owe local government. So we need to begin in the spirit of corporate governance to listen to one another, to begin to engage each other as equals. You know, a councillor is equal to an MPL. A councillor is equal to an MP. But in practical sense, I'm sure the MPs and MPLs feel more senior to councillors. Yet in the constitution, these are equal public representatives. So where I am sitting, the time to lambast local government, yet you have never set a foot in a local municipality, is over. We've got to stop, reflect, look at this local sphere of government, understand the challenges, and come up with remedial action.
Mayor, batho ba Ngaka Modiri Molema ba lla ka metsi gore ba na le mathata a metsi. What is being done to address the issue of water? As Ngaka Modiri Molema, you said, is a water board.
The day I find a solution to water, I'll just peacefully take my jacket and go and celebrate. Ngaka Modiri Molema is a semi-arid area. We are blessed with aquifers underground. There's water underground, but we have 2,700 or 800 boreholes. We are trying with a little budget. Right now, as a district, we are financially grounded. We try to be creative. There were projects committed outside the budget because there were demands and stuff like that. We can't pay contractors. We are financially grounded because the supply can meet the demand. But my argument is this. This thing of drilling everywhere, we have drilled everywhere. We are in engagement with Midval. Midval is in Dr. KK. They've got an abundance of water from the Val. They used to supply mines. The mines have closed. They've got a huge surplus of water. And we can take a pipe from RTBS into here, branch it into Ditsobotla, branch it into Tswaing, come to Mahike. We need sustainable flowing water. I mean, in the last 16 or so months, we've used about 1.3 billion, thrown it at water. The more millions you throw on the ground, the more the outcry. But let me tell you what are the problems of water. We're losing a lot of water through leakages. What is the cause of leakages? The cause of leakages may be poor maintenance, but the cause of leakages is illegal connections. What is illegal connection? Illegal connection is where members of the community connect on our main lines for their households, and water is transported through pressure. If you keep on connecting on the belly of this mainline pipe, the pressure of the water becomes weaker and it doesn't reach the high-lying communities, and communities protest. They forget that they are the cause. But number 3 is that our competency as the district is to supply human beings with water, not the animals. Animals is a competency of the Department of Agriculture. You can see the windmills have collapsed everywhere. What does it mean? It means people who have livestock make a plan on our pipe, they illegally connect for animals to drink. Number 5, which is our biggest problem, is crime, theft. You put an engine here, I said we have 2,800 boreholes, they are in the bush. You can't have a security person there every time. We're putting cameras, we're using a lot of money there. But crime, but we're dealing with a coordinated syndicate. South Africans must know. And it's countrywide. The contractors, some of the unscrupulous contractors in water, fund these unemployed young people to ransack our water infrastructure in a way they then fund community protests. You understand what I mean?
I do.
Some of the contractors fund some of the young people to ransack, damage our infrastructure so that they then create a pressure. They fund community protests. So they close. And for N12, 8, and 18, what is the problem? These people are eating, all of them, they are fully transported. They are eating KFC at the matches. Who's funding this thing? It's these unscrupulous contractors. They are creating work for themselves, because if there's so much work, then they must go and do it. That is our biggest problem. There is that kind of a syndicate. It is armed, well-resourced, well-equipped. They sometimes come during the day and they attack even our security and ravage our infrastructure. It's a painful situation. To deal with water is not the same as dealing with housing or building schools. With schools, with housing, you put a foundation here. Even if you can live for 5 years, you will find that foundation. But with us in water, you connect water, you energize, you call a community meeting, they see water. After 2 days, the easy nyoka have taken the cable. The people will say, you are lying, there's no water there, you are doing shoddy work. It's a complex one. You put a new engine, you leave, there's water. After 3 days, the engine is stolen. So dealing with water is complex. Dealing with water requires investment in security. But how do we invest in sophisticated security technology if we are this underfunded, if we don't have money? It's a complex one. We can't oversimplify difficult government problems. Water is a challenge. But over time, we have weakened the system. Let's also admit we also lack capacity. We're building capacity, it's a process, but we lack capacity. And once we address that and all these other challenges, we will turn the corner. My only comfort is that I have seen men and women who are prepared to go an extra mile in Ngaka Modiri Molema, who are committed to doing this thing. And I want to say thank you to them from the bottom of my heart. They must not think we don't see. We can see them. But we also see those who work against government for their own selfish ends. Those who fund, those who protest here, block the municipalities, they are funded by some of the officials, they are funded by some of the contractors. All these protests, you will see, if you observe, you look them closely, you engage with people on the ground. Some of them confess, they even tell you who funded this protest action. They are funded. There's transportation, there's food and all that. These are people who work against government. It's sabotage. They are subverting and impeding government work. But it requires leadership. We're soldiering on.
Okay. As you soldier on, Executive Mayor, tell me, what is it that you'd like to achieve in your position, which will actually make you happy at the end of your term to say, yeah, I really have achieved and I really did what I needed to do?
One, we must achieve stability here at Ngaka. We must make Ngaka Modiri Molema a government entity. We must continue to wrestle Ngaka from private groups and business people. Because currently, my argument is that we are partly governing Ngaka, but the other part is governed elsewhere outside Ngaka. Okay. We must succeed in making Ngaka a public entity in its true sense. Once we can achieve that, I'll say we're going somewhere. But we must build internal capacity. We're lacking in capacity in technical. If we can build capacity in the sense that we are over-relying on consultants and contractors. The millions that we are paying are shocking. They are shocking. Where we can employ people in scarce skills, We need people who specialize in water. We need people who specialize in sanitation. We've started a process of recruiting. I welcomed about 40 or so young people in water and sanitation. So we have started a process of building internal capacity so that we can gradually do away with outsourcing so that we insource. The manifesto that brought us here said we must do away with outsourcing, we must insource. It's a mammoth task, but it's worth pursuing. But I live in peace if I leave this municipality and we have resolved the question of water. If we do that, I would say I have achieved. It's not something you can achieve 100%, but we must achieve that thing. But also restore professionalism and patriotism. You see, professionalism and patriotism go together. First, it is South Africa. Once you say South Africa comes first, you are saying my people comes first. Professional means I am going to do diligently that which I am appointed and paid to do. And if I don't do it, I will be held answerable to that. If we can inculcate this thing and replace this culture of entitlement where we think people are on duty, people are just running their own private private businesses. A person comes here at 10, at 1, this person is no longer here. And this person is paid every month without fail. What does the consciousness of this person say? I'm a mayor, this is November, for 3 years. I've not taken leave, not because I don't want to take leave. How do I take leave? My people are suffering with water. Every day I go to the Department of Water and Sanitation. I engage Mahalis. I go. I'm now in engagement with the university. We have a water symposium on the 2nd of December. I'm bringing specialists. We're collaborating with the university. We want water solution. So one of the things we must achieve, professionalism and patriotism, but we must kill complacency and a spirit of dependency and entitlement. If we succeed in that, I will take my early pension at 55. I'm not far.
You're far.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who's looking at you and they also want to join politics and maybe even be in the seat that you're in right now? What advice would you give to somebody that looks up to you?
I will never advise anybody to join politics. Never. But I will advise everybody, including my kids, to join activism. Because activism means if there are no lights, the street lights are not working. If there's no water, if there are potholes, you will take charge. You will engage. Maybe politics means something else. That terminology is polluted. It's corrupted. We must install a sense of activism, a sense of patriotism. So go there, go do it practically, go lead and represent your people. And that is what each and every one of us in South Africa must be. We must be activists and not create a faction of elitists and we call them politicians. What is the difference between me and you? And you want to call me a politician? I don't think I'm a politician. I call myself an activist. I'm a community representative. And anybody who wants to be a mayor, you are in a right direction if you want to serve your people and serve them well. This is not the place for angels. Barack Obama says, if you don't want mud thrown at you, don't occupy public office. This is not a bed of roses and stuff like that. Here is a coal face. If you want to be a mayor, if you want to be an MEC or a minister or anything of that sort, you must be prepared to sweat, you must be prepared to die for your people. It's not about you. When they come there and they sing the mayor must fall, I don't take it personal. They are protesting to their representatives. It's a cry to say, we have put you there to represent us. We're coming to cry to you as our representative. But if you don't understand, you will think it's a prestigious work for self-aggrandizement and enrichment, and it belongs to your family. It doesn't belong to your family. It's not a career. It's a calling. It's an assignment. So anybody who wants to be a mayor or to represent the people must first ask God for wisdom and guidance.
And did you ever think you'd be here growing up?
I never thought I would be here growing up as a mayor. I have always dreamed of being a premier, a minister, something I think is powerful, but looking at my age, I can't be a premier anymore. I wanted to do it at 40. I'm 50 plus. I'm sure there are very many young people who must be groomed to take over from us. I don't want to lead at 60. If things go my way, I actually wanted to live at 55. But I was delayed. Sometimes politics deploy you on the street. So at some point, politics deployed on me on the street. For 4 years, I was unemployed. I had qualifications, I had experiences. I was doing weddings, weddings. I was doing events. I was because you must leave and let leave. So they've inconvenienced me for 4 more years. So I'm trying to recover. But generally, did I want to be a mayor? Do I want to be a premier? I don't think I want to be a premier. I think I'm fine here. I want to serve my people. This is where things are happening. Ministers don't have constituencies. Premiers don't have constituencies. It's lonely there. MECs don't have people. For them to call people, we mayors must call them. They don't have people. So it's cold up there. They say the higher you go, the colder it becomes. So if I were to choose from being a premier and being an executive mayor of the district, I would still choose being a district mayor, but these are not positions of choices. You don't deploy yourself. They can halfway tell you, no, leave here. Thank you very much, but no, thank you. We're now redeploying you back to the streets, or you are going to be the MEC. But my attitude is what Martin Luther the King says. And I don't get tired from telling people what Martin Luther the King says to me every day. And this is what he says, and I quote, he says, it doesn't matter what your life work is, do it well. Do it so well that the living, the dead, and the unborn could do it no better, close quote. It doesn't matter what your life work is, do it well. Do it so well that the living, the dead, and the unborn could do it no better. So it doesn't matter where they send you really. It's not about you anymore. You are there not to serve yourself, but to serve the people. So serve them well wherever you are sent.
Well, on that note, Executive Mayor, where can people reach you if they want to engage with you? 084-5784-121. They must just be careful. I'm newlywed. I'm 25 years in this thing. Surely you don't want to call like a certain woman who called me at 11:15 yesterday. I told you there's no mayor in the house, right? Yes.
There's a husband. There's humanity. So it's natural if you are a man, you get a call. And cell phones have a tendency to increase their volumes naturally during the night. So if there's a call, even if you can reduce the volume and you are in bed, the next person will hear clearly. Now, if it's a voice of a woman, even when they were asleep, they will pay more attention. So my wife is a light sleeper. I'm just cautioning. I can be called anytime. I can be engaged anytime. I walk on the ground. I am nothing special. I'm a representative of the people. I attend all the churches every Sunday. I don't only attend my church. By the way, I'm ZCC, right? I don't go to my church every Sunday because I'm a leader. Sometimes I go to Roman Catholic, ya bazalwane, ya apostolong, ya kai ki kereka di kereke tsotlhe. Ha ba rapela ba bua le Jehova ke a tsena for. So I'm just saying you can get me here by arrangement, but I've given you my number, and that's the only number that I have. As long as we respect one another, as long as we don't ill-treat and abuse proximity to one another. You know, there are people who are making money just by being close to us, who facilitate meetings for us to meet people, and we don't know. And people pay a lot of money, 20,000, 10,000, just to see the mayor. But the mayor does not know that people pay. It's because of people who are very close to us, who always drop our names. They even go to contractors, they collect money in our name. So we're living in a very polluted environment. Sometimes people say we're too cautious. They may think we're aloof, but it's because we're living in a very polluted area. But don't you dare think that everybody is happy that you are a mayor.
And is the mayor on social media?
Yes.
And where can they get you on social media?
I am not on Twitter. I'll tell you after this session. But I'm on Facebook. I'm Khumalo Molefe. I've got there's nothing personal anymore when you are in public space. It's Khumalo Molefe. You will get me there. But we've got the municipal page. You will get us there. You will get us on Instagram. We're all over. They can't miss us. I prefer people not to match to me. If they want to match, they must tell me, we want you, come to us. They must not spend resources. So I consider myself to be a mayor who is accessible. That is why every work that we do as a district, where I am, we live stream it. Whether it's a council meeting, whether we're doing oversight, whether we're in a meeting, because we don't report to ourselves. We report to the people. So everything that we do, the public is aware of it. We account to the people.
Well, Mayor, that's all we had time for this week. Re leboga thata gore bo tlile mo Northwest Provincial Government Podcast.
No, ke leboga go menagane thata, but I want to leave them with a message that says, and it's a quote again from Martin Luther the King, who says, look, I come from a Shebeen, I told you, right?
Yes.
But I don't represent the Shebeen, not written a Shebeen. I want to say to my dear brothers at home, I come from a Shebeen. I was raised by the proceeds of alcohol. I come from a poor family. I don't speak like I'm poor. I don't walk like I am poor. I'm not written poverty. I don't represent poverty. And I want to say to my dear brothers and sisters who don't know how they're going to make it to Treasury next year. If God could create out of a Shebeen a mayor, I mean, who are you? From a Shebeen, God has created not only a mayor, a district executive mayor, a provincial chairperson of Salga. If God can do that from a Shebeen, I mean, who are you? But in conclusion, I want to say this is what Martin Luther the King says, keep flying. If you can fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But whatever it is that you are doing, keep moving forward. Thank you very much.
Well, that brings us to the end of yet another episode. Until we meet again next week with yet another guest. And for the NWPG podcast, I'm Keletso Ratlhagane. Ciao.